Stream is starting.
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it today, but I appreciate it, Kit.
Okay. Hey everyone, this is your host, Living Dead Cat, with another episode of the Art and Mental Health Stream. I want to welcome you guys today for today's topic. It's going to be dissociation. There's various different kinds of dissociation, and we'll go over each one of them, as well as have a generalized discussion, an open discussion for anybody who needs to vent, rant, or anything like that. Don't forget to follow and turn on notifications if you'd like to continue to catch up and listen in, join in, or anything you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and give my shout outs to Spanner in the Works, who is the reason I'm here streaming. They got me started and were a very big inspiration for me to start. The Tower of Isa for my wonderful VTuber avatar. They do commissions. Please go hit them up on Twitter. Hey Applebee for helping with my banner. Kitsue for digitizing the DPS logo. And of course DPS, also known as Dragon Panther Studios. Special shout out to the Sanctuary Discord server. We have a new logo, and it is now posted on all of my streams. You can also say hi to Jasper, because he is my mascot. Check out my QR code when you have the chance, because it links to any way you can get a hold of me, as well as my wish list on Amazon. It helps to provide materials for all of the crafts that I do, all the art that I do. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the music down and get this going and say hi to everybody. So tonight in the stream so far, we've got Gray, Misty, Squishy, and Chef. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Food.
Well,
I'm having this on again, off again physical phenomenon where I have some abdominal pain and some difficulty breathing, and my head feels weird.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm going through one of those now, but it's not bad. I just might not talk.
Okay, well, you don't have to talk. It's never mandatory. Tonight during the stream, I'm going to be adding some touch-ups to the Dragon Panther Studios egg. If you guys remember last time, it was more simplistic and now has quite a bit of an update to it. Lettering is not easy, so I probably will be working on that with some other ones and possibly just negating those altogether for now on using gems and pearls. And it'd probably be better to just use paint. But it's all blingy and pretty. And another update, anybody who does get a dragon egg gets a complimentary metal ring to use as a ring stand. Ta-da! And apologies for the quality. This is a new camera and a new setup. So, yay! Try to get that going. So, dissociation. That came up as a question earlier this evening, and I looked into it. and figured it'd be a pretty good topic for tonight. So it's a word used to describe the disconnection or lack of connection between things usually associated with each other. So dissociated experiences are not the normal for your sense of self, conscious awareness, or lapses of memory. It could also interfere with your identity or perception. Someone may think about an event that was tremendously upsetting and yet have no feelings from it. Clinically, this is termed emotional numbing, one of the hallmarks of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a psychological process commonly found in persons seeking mental health treatment. Now, when you dissociate, that's different ways to do that. You are pretty much, when it's active dissociation, it's separating yourself from a trauma or a scenario that you don't want to feel or experience. But then there's a passive dissociation where it happens on its own, frequently in trauma patients in terms of mental, physical, sexual, or any other kind of abuse, where lapses of memory, it's almost like the brain protecting itself and turning off that memory. So there's 5 main ways in which the dissociation of psychological processes change the way a person experiences living: depersonalization, derealization, amnesia, identity confusion, and identity alteration. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of these because there's quite a bit of information that I found just on one forum here. And these all have quite a few resources and reference materials that these came from, not just some random post on Facebook or something like that that has no link to anything else. These are in clinical websites and things like that I've found. Now, just to make sure I get this point across, I am not a licensed professional. I am not a certified or licensed counselor, therapist, or psychiatrist. Please seek the necessary people to assist you in any of your mental health journeys. So depersonalization is a sense of being detached from or not in one's body. It's often referred to as an out-of-body experience. However, some people report a rather profound alienation or just not feel connected, so to speak. Derealization is a sense of the world around you not being real. Some people say the world looks phony, foggy, far away, or as if seen through a veil. I made a joke earlier stating that it's kind of like when you're going through Silent Hill, and it was also mentioned that that's not too far off. Dissociative amnesia is the inability to recall important personal information that is so extensive that it's not due to ordinary forgetfulness. It's not of the classic fugue variety, and we'll get into that later, but it's more like the earlier mention where the brain will block out a memory to protect itself or protect yourself. Identity confusion versus identity alteration. Confusion is when a person sometimes feels a thrill while engaged in an activity, such as reckless driving or drug use, but normally it would be something that you completely abhor. More frequently, subtler forms of identity alteration can be observed when a person uses different voice tones, range of language, facial expressions. And let's see, we've got the causes of dissociation and dissociative disorders. It's a combination of environmental and biological factors. But the likelihood that a tendency to dissociate is inherited genetically is estimated to be 0. Most commonly, repetitive childhood physical and/or sexual abuse and other forms of trauma are associated with the development of dissociative disorders. In the context of chronic severe childhood trauma, it can be considered adaptive because it reduces the overwhelming distress. However, if it continues to be used in adulthood when the original danger no longer exists, it can be maladaptive. They may automatically disconnect from situations perceived as dangerous or threatening without taking time to determine whether there is any real danger, leaving the person spaced out in many situations in ordinary life and unable to protect themselves in conditions of real danger. Can also occur when there's been severe neglect or emotional abuse, even when there has been no overt physical or sexual abuse. Children may also become dissociative in families in which parents are frightening, unpredictable, or dissociative themselves, or make highly contradictory communications. One of the core problems for the person with a dissociative disorder is affect dysregulation, or difficulty tolerating and regulating intense emotional experiences. This results in part from having had little opportunity to learn to soothe oneself or modulate feelings due to growing up in an abusive or neglectful family, where parents did not teach these skills. Problems in affect regulation are compounded by the sudden intrusion of traumatic memories and the overwhelming emotions accompanying them. Let's see. The different types of dissociative disorders is dissociative amnesia, dissociative fugue, depersonalization disorder, dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder, and a dissociative disorder not otherwise specified, or DDNOS. Dissociative amnesia is characterized by an inability to recall the important personal information. It's frequently seen in hospital emergency rooms, and it's not due to an organic disorder or DID. It's often embedded within our psychological disorders, also known as anxiety and other dissociatives. Individuals suffering from dissociative amnesia are generally aware of their memory loss, but it's usually reversible because the memory difficulties are in the retrieval process, not in the encoding process or the way that your brain converts short-term to long-term memory. The duration of amnesia can vary from a few days to a few years. Dissociative fugue is a little bit, or well, quite a bit more frightening. It's characterized by a sudden, unexpected travel away from home or one's customary place of work, accompanied by an inability to recall one's past and confusion about personal identity or the assumption of a new identity. They may appear normal to others, that is, their psychopathology is not obvious. They're generally unaware of their memory loss or amnesia. And as one of you mentioned to me earlier, it's as if someone that you've known for years suddenly disappears, and a random time frame later, like a month or 3 or 4 years later, you see this person somewhere in public or whatnot, and you are going up to them to ask what happened. They don't know you, and they are very confused as to how you know so much about them. And they don't know who this other person is that you're talking about, which is their past. So that one is quite a bit more of a horrific idea to, specifically to me. I do have what's called agoraphobia. It's the fear of forgetting or being forgotten. And that type of scenario where all of a sudden a person completely just leaves their life and starts over with a new identity and has no recollection of their past or the people in their lives, it's terrifying to me. But there are people out there who have dissociative fugue. Depersonalization disorder is characterized by a persistent or recurring feeling of being detached from one's own mental processes or body. They relate to feeling as if they are watching their lives from outside, similar to watching a movie. They often report problems with concentration, memory, and perception. Substance abuse can cause a similar effect, but that does not mean that this person has depersonalization disorder. It must occur independently of DID, substance abuse disorders, and schizophrenia. DID, or dissociative identity disorder, again previously known as multiple personality disorder, is the most severe and chronic manifestation of dissociation, characterized by the presence of two or more distinct identities or personality states that recurrently take control of the individual's behavior. It's now recognized that these dissociated states are not fully formed personalities, but rather represent a fragmented sense of identity. The amnesia typically associated with DID is asymmetrical, with different identity states remembering different aspects of autobiographical information. Usually a host personality who identifies with the client's real name. Typically the host personality is not aware of the presence of the other alters. The different personalities may serve distinct roles in coping with problem areas, and an average of 2 to 4 personalities or alters are present at diagnosis, with an average of 13 to 15 emerging over the course of treatment. Environmental events usually trigger a sudden shifting from one to another. And the personalities can differ so severely that, as mentioned from someone else earlier tonight, one alter could be diabetic and show all of the physical symptoms of such, but the others do not. And then DDNOS, or dissociative disorder not otherwise specified, includes presentations that do not meet the full criteria for any of the other dissociative disorders. So, that was a lot of information. I understand it's very clinical in terms of some of the descriptions and such, but I also understand that with questions arising from earlier this evening about it, there you go. There's a ton of information out there about it, and some of it. No, Jasper, not. No. It's pink. Go away. Unfortunately, some of these items are not easily, I don't want to say dumbed down, but easily explained outside of some of the clinical terms, unless you've experienced it or know about it on a different level, or have studied and things like that. But I also want to let everybody know that aside from the topic tonight, it is open discussion any night to talk about anything that's bothering anybody. So if anybody wants to share anything that's been going on, good, bad, indifferent, whichever, feel free to do so. And if somebody would rather have a one-on-one discussion outside of the stream, let me know, and I will definitely get with you after the stream. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, trying not to talk a whole lot. I'm feeling better from when I started the stream, but I'm trying not to waste my breath just in case.
Understood.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, I mean, a lot of just with what's been going on, I mean, I'm in general in a much better place than I have been for a long time. It's amazing how what seemingly is a simple thought process and change can create a drastic just change in your outlook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with me, it's one of those I wish I would have paid attention more, bucked the system more when I was younger than just, getting crammed into a box and accepting this is your box. Have a nice day. Because unfortunately, when you're younger and not even necessarily, you know, middle school, sometimes younger than that, we're all forced into boxes
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form. Whether you want to look at it or accept it at any point in time, there is a box you're put in. It's not until later on in life when you realize that's not who I was. That's what society wanted. That you're able to start becoming who you know you are. And sometimes people lose that and lose it forever because that box becomes their life. And thankfully, I've been able to, due to friends, family, finally crush that box just due to people accepting me for who I am and who I've decided I am.
That's awesome. I'm glad you were finally able to reach that point. And I definitely can relate to the feeling of being put in that box at an early age. Whether you see it from, you know, being an only child or the second child or the baby or middle child, you are put in this very specific box of expectations, of even disappointments before you even do anything. And it can be your personality, it can be somebody else's perception of you, it can be all of these different things that cause those around you to just place you in that box.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it happen to my friends and I've had them sit there and tell me, "Yeah, but if I do this," I went, "And what happens if you do that?" That's my general question. And if you do this, what happens? What is your worst possible outcome? And it's a way to help people figure out how to break out of their box
Mm-hmm.
because it's once you figure out your worst possible outcome, which is someone going, "Well, how do you know this?" Well, if that's your worst possible outcome, someone asking a question, find your answer for them.
That's how
That
people
way
see it.
you have something to give them, or at least a way to start a discussion.
That's awesome.
Because now, if your worst possible outcome is physical danger or something, okay, at that point in time, you need to seek other avenues. But if you find that the worst possible outcome is possibly having an argument or someone asking questions, figure out a way to comfortably answer them and calmly deal with the potential argument that's going to come from it. So that way you can be who you are, and that box isn't who you have become.
I like that. And I love the analogy about it. And want to thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in here doesn't have to share, but you're open to share with the group. It is a very open minded, safe space kind of group. We are as non judgmental as we can be and welcome people of all types and backgrounds. Does anybody else have anything they want to share about either what was just talked about or about dissociation or anything like that? And just to let you guys know, some of you are muted in case you are talking. This may be the shortest stream yet.
I will say that the definitions at the beginning of the stream have definitely given me something to think about.
Yeah.
All last week, I seemed to be staring off into nowhere with no real reason. And I would realize probably, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes later that, wait, I haven't done anything. And that's not like me. Normally, I'm one to get up and do chores and always be busy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of what is the clinical definition of dissociation? And does everybody do it, or just, people with trauma or things of that sort? So that was the reason for the questioning, and thank you for, doing the research.
No problem. I actually like doing research.
I know.
But yeah, and I think it was mentioned earlier this evening before the stream that yes, there are more mild cases where it's fairly common to just go off and daydream and just separate from reality for a while. But then, sometimes you may be, as mentioned, reading a book and suddenly all of a sudden it's 8-9 hours later and you don't even know where the day went. That's not as common, but still a possibility.
Yeah, and just to touch on things like that, when you're disassociating in that kind of a manner where it's on a large scale time frame, it's not just a matter of just disappearing or reading the book and getting lost in time. You forget to eat. You forget to go to the bathroom. You forget to move. You literally have not moved from that spot. And that's where the problems start coming in because you are neglecting your own health just to disappear.
That does seem quite a bit more severe than just getting lost in thought or in a book.
Yeah, getting lost in thought, yeah, you can lose a few hours, 30 minutes here or there, but, the physical need to go to the bathroom is eventually going to catch up with you.
Yeah.
I mean, even those of us who sit there and play games for hours on end, eventually the biological need to get up and go to the bathroom or get food is going to kick in. Your survival instinct will kick in. The problem with disassociation is you lose those instincts because you have completely checked out.
That's interesting. Now, I know at work, I usually don't eat.
But that's a choice normally.
Well, it's typically because I get lost in the job and there's so much to do and I'm so busy and the time just flies by throughout the day, all day long, that it's like 2 o'clock before I realize, oh, I didn't take lunch. Well, I'm not really that hungry now anymore anyway. But, 3:30 rolls around and then I'm starving. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I said the severity of checking out is it's nothing to sniff at because in fact, I have a friend who has done that, and it's not pretty because generally you have to coax them back in and help them check back in. And it's not always easy.
I'll let that dry for a minute. That is pretty unnerving to think about.
Yeah. Checking out, 30 minutes to an hour a day, getting lost in your work. Yeah, but you're not checking out for the sake of checking out. You're checking out due to the sake of you're busy doing something. You're eventually going to be coming back, and you know that.
Mm-hmm.
With disassociation, you're checking out, and there's no way to know when you're actually going to check back in. And that's why there's the different states and various severities of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, with like the daydreaming, those are fairly common. Everybody tends to do it from time to time. It's a way that your body processes. It's the way your mind, catches up. It's a matter of, at least as far as in my circumstances, whenever I've checked out for a short period of time, it was to give me a chance to reset. Because my stress levels or whatever it may be have gotten to a point where I need to take a break. And in order to, unfortunately, get away from the stress long enough to give myself a chance to catch up to deal with it, because checking out, as with everything, yeah, you can run away from your troubles.
But it'll catch up to you.
Exactly. But checking out to give yourself time to catch up with the stresses that are there so you can handle them, that's, that's coping. And not always healthy. I'm not even going to begin saying it's healthy, but it's not outside the realm of normal to do it for, 20, 30 minutes, give yourself a chance to catch up. But you start doing it for extended periods of time, ignoring, your own bodily needs, and yeah, all of a sudden there's trouble. And that's on the more mild side of the spectrum, which is still frightening.
Yeah.
I actually did a paper in college about not directly disassociation, but more people who go into, as it was referred to when I was actually going to college, temporary catatonia. And catatonia, to an extent, is a way of disassociation. because they've checked out somewhere. 9 times out of 10, their brain is still fully functioning. They've just locked themselves somewhere, whether it be in their own mind or they've checked out and gone somewhere else altogether. Some people, I've just due to research, some patients that I've read about in various studies, I wish I could actually go find some of them again. But some that have actually recovered have even stated that they knew everything that was going on. They just didn't have the ability to do anything about it because they'd shut down and checked out so far that they didn't know how to use their body anymore.
Wow.
And like I said, it was an interesting paper that I was, doing when I was going through my psych courses. And once again, like you said, I am no professional. Do not take anything I say fully to heart. Anything I'm giving you is either personal experience or something that I've gone and done some level of research into, so that way I can at least speak to it slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anybody, going, oh, cool, yay. No, that's not. This is just me providing personal experience and knowledge that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Disassociation is a very frightening thing all the way around. Because, like you said, especially with, having the fear of being forgotten, yeah, that's a very real possibility, especially with disassociation. As is, completely forgetting about the need for your body because you've completely checked out and gone to whatever world your mind's put together. Now, there are some people who actually have used disassociation in a constructive manner. They
How so?
actually set a time frame to disassociate. And only during this time frame and with trusted people do they actually do this, so that way they know that they will be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's still not guaranteed and it's still not safe, but at least they're doing it in a way that's safer.
Now, in part of my research for tonight, uh, I had gone over this with you and Squishy, how some therapists will request somebody to make eye contact or even chew a piece of candy.
Yep.
To bring themselves back from a dissociative state. So, out of all of that, those are the only things that I was able to garner to be able to, so to speak, snap out of it.
Well, and it's the thought of candy is with candy, it's kind of like hiccups. The putting sugar under your tongue for hiccups.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. That sugar rush into your body forces your brain to go, oh, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that quick snap in your brain. Doesn't always work, but it's just that quick click.
And it's interesting how something so simple could be the key.
Well, kind of like making eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
You make eye contact with people all day, but if you're checked out and in a different reality and all of a sudden somebody makes eye contact with you, that's jarring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like hitting a reset switch.
I appreciate that, socially we are getting more and more seemingly acceptable to have conversations about mental health, and the more, open conversations we can have. Where it does pose issues is when you come across words that are just, they're thrown out there. And yes, they're actually technical diagnoses that get applied to people.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, okay, but what all does that entail? A lot of things are so varied, it's hard to actually put a diagnosis on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is when you hear a word, you automatically jump to what you've been told about it or what you read about it, and like you said, none of us are licensed counselors, so we only know what we've done research into or what we've experienced personally.
And everybody
So
experiences it differently sometimes too.
exactly. So
And yeah,
somebody had said the word disassociation, and I went, I don't know what that means. So it was like, okay, well, I'll ask people that I know have done a little bit of research. I'll do my own research, and if it sounds semi-plausible, then I may go ask a professional.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is
If
the
it
right
sounds like it's
course.
something that should be applied to me.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely the right way to go about these things. It's and again, I was not using some random post to read from. I was reading from a medical, or actually a psychological resource website. Darn, I already closed it. It was like, let me see if I can find it again real quick. I had to click through about 3 or 4 different things to figure out what it was.
Well, and that's why I was real quick when I said I was doing research on this. I don't remember anywhere that I could cite, hey, this is where I found this, because that was many, many years ago.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I remember the bits of information I got from it. And I will
Mm-hmm.
let you know, yes, I did the research. These are the bits of information I have, but no, I cannot give you the citation for it.
Yeah, you can go to
Please fact
psychiatry.org.
check me.
Yeah, you can go to psychiatry.org, mind.org.uk. Let's see, there's other places, healthline.com. I do not ever send anyone to WebMD because that's almost
No.
like medical Wikipedia.
Yeah. Even a doctor is going to tell you don't go to WebMD.
Mm-hmm. Betterhealth.vic.gov.au. I mean, there's all kinds of organization web pages and things like that. Rethink.org is a phenomenal one. That's a place that definitely bolsters the mental health community and able to help
and
people to understand. Yeah. Mayoclinic.org is another good one. nhs.uk.
Yep. A book resource that, if you have the money, is well worth it, just because it's good to give you a general idea on how diagnoses are done, which is the DSM.
Yes.
I don't know which version it's at right now. Last I knew it was at like version 8, but I don't know. But yeah, the DSM is a good way because that lets you know how your medical professionals go through their diagnosis. Now, let them do it. Do not use it to diagnose yourself, but it's a good idea to get you understanding what and how they got there.
Yes. And I did find the website that I was quoting from. It was isst-d.org. And it was under the resources and dissociation facts. And they had a plethora of references throughout the entirety. That's what all the pausing was as I was reading past all of the reference material that was cited and trying to get to the meat of things. So feel free to go to any of those websites as listed earlier. Again, healthline.com, isst-d.org. Where's another one? Psychiatry.org is a fantastic resource. Absolutely fantastic. NHS, the National, or no, something healthcare systems. There's an NHS in the US as well. There's so many different ones. But rethink.org, all of those places, the Mayo Clinic is a huge resource as well.
Yep. And anybody, and I'm going to say this, and I am going to be very clear with how I am going to frame this, is Wikipedia is not a terrible resource. I'm not saying it's a good one, but it's not terrible so long as while you're looking through it, you go and take a look at the references at the bottom and do your fact checking. Because if you do not, you will run into issues. If you cannot find anything that backs up anything that is being said on there, only take into account what you can fact check with Wikipedia. Like I said, it's not a terrible resource. It's not good, but it's not terrible because there is good information there. You just need to check the information.
And that means actually putting in the time and effort for it. A lot of people want quick answers these days, and that's what has caused the rapid decline in good information out on the internet. Is too many people just want quick information and they don't do the research for it anymore.
Yeah, and that's why I said I was going to be very clear on because Wikipedia in general, terrible resource, absolute garbage. But if you do the time and actually research and double check and fact check Wikipedia, it can be a good resource and lead you to very good information.
Keywords lead you to it.
Exactly. It's not the place to get the information, but it can lead you to it because there are a lot of people who put valid citation on Wikipedia, which at that point in time helps you. But yeah, no, I would not recommend using it as just, oh, hey, yeah, cool, I read this on Wikipedia, have a nice day. No, never.
Yeah.
At all. Nope. Because that's just asking to cause trouble. And I would never recommend anybody to just go and take Wikipedia at face value. There is a reason there's a reference source at the bottom of every Wikipedia page. Most people don't scroll down to it, but it's there. And that's where you want to start checking and looking so that way you can find out, where did I find this information? Where did they find this information? Let me expand on the information they gave.
Mm-hmm.
Because quick answers are never good answers.
Right. Jasper, can you stop clawing up my chair, please? Don't look
Mama,
at me like that. Don't look at me in that tone of voice.
Ma.
Yeah. It's like, where's my food? I had ordered groceries, and apparently the wet food didn't get, didn't get delivered with everything else.
I can see that making him mad. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got dry food. He just doesn't get his dinner treats right now. She's very upset about it. He's quite put out.
Well, and to touch on what Squish said with, someone sitting there and going, oh, hey, this. Well, a lot of people go, oh, cool, that's a label, have a nice day. Mental health shouldn't be a label, it shouldn't define you. And it never should, ever.
You are not your mental illness.
No. Is your mental illness a part of you? Yes. But does it define who you are? No. Because it is something with sometimes medication, sometimes just therapy or having a good support group. You can get through, you can manage, which all of a sudden, it doesn't matter. And I actually, when I first started getting diagnosed with many of mine, a lot of people just, started going, "Oh, cool. This is who you are." And it was like, "Cool. I don't need you."
Hmm.
And I started cutting people out of my life. And people were like, "Oh, it's because of your mental illness you're doing this." No, it's because you're too ignorant to accept me for who I am and look
putting you in
past
that
the
box.
fact that, okay, yeah, there are certain, accommodations that you may need to make around me due to said mental illness, but it doesn't mean that I'm any different than I was before. It just means you now know me at a deeper level than you did before.
Mm-hmm. And I want to go ahead and point out to those who do not have to struggle with mental illness, who are listening in but would like to learn, it's also not something where you should feel you need to walk on eggshells around a person after you've learned of their illnesses or anything like that. It is something that they have trusted you with the knowledge of, and it's not something that you have to be like excruciatingly overly careful, but just more aware and more understanding of what they are going through, so as to not appear ignorant or callous in terms of how you respond or how you speak to them. There are changes along the way that happen when you talk to someone who has had a lot of trauma. One of my coworkers is super open-minded and very eager to learn all about my mental illnesses, and there was a time that he got real excited that he completed a project and just slammed his hands down on the desk, and it sent me into a small jolt of a PTSD trigger, and I just requested him to, if he's going to hit his desk, say something to where I know it's going to be in a good way and not a violent way, like cheer before you do it, or
Give
just
like a woohoo or something.
yeah, something to where I'm not afraid that I'm about to get hit because of my past traumas. Because in my past, that was a precursor to violence upon me. That was a precursor to verbal abuse upon me, was slamming doors or slamming this or slamming that. And it's something I can't stand.
And the thing is, most people who have a mental illness, if there are things that they know that are going to be a potential issue, they're either going to let you know ahead of time, hey, I need XYZ concessions, because they know that this is a potential issue. That doesn't mean you have to, like, you were saying, you don't have to walk on eggshells they're trusting you with this knowledge. They trust you enough to be, hey, these are my issues. Here's how you help me. Not everybody gets that from anybody.
Right.
I've only given that to a handful of people. And it's because I trust them enough not to take that knowledge and go, oh, cool, I can use it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're going to use it to help me. And it's just finding someone you can trust that you're giving that knowledge to isn't easy.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time when you're giving that knowledge to someone who you didn't trust to give that knowledge to is because they've done something to trigger it. Like you said with the guy at work, that, yeah, you talked with him and he was super eager about, the learning about it, but he didn't know that that was going to be a trigger.
Right.
Now, for someone you really trusted, that's something you probably would have let them know ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, sharp slamming of things, could cause this issue. But you're not just going to sit there and go, hey, I've got XYZ going on, don't do this to anybody you meet.
Right.
It's just it's a level of trust that someone gets that with that kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
And if
And
someone is giving that to you, please understand that that means a lot to them, and that should in turn mean a lot to you.
And remember, it's not always going to be easy to remember other people's triggers or
No.
to remember that, oh, that's right, this person doesn't like to hear about these kind of things like in horror movies or war movies or things like that. They don't want to hear these details, or they don't want to hear this, that, or the other, or see this, that, or the other. Just the knowledge that you are slowly remembering and slowly acclimating to it is enough to mean something to the other person. Like, you could accidentally do something, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, or something like that. If they bite your head off, then that could be their triggered reaction, and they will definitely, well, I don't want to speak for everybody on the planet, but most likely generally be apologetic about snapping. I had an episode about that when I was in the middle of a panic attack and somebody told me to calm down.
Oh yeah, no, that's never a good idea. That's a good way to get your head bit off real fast and in a hurry.
And it was a nurse, and I yelled at her. I snapped at her, and she left. And when she came back, I apologized profusely about it. And she's like, "Oh no, it's okay." I was like, "No, it's not. It's my issue, and I am doing my best to try and take a hold of it. But I thank you for your patience with me and for not taking it to heart,
Well, and like with me in my transition, there are a lot of people who have known me for a long time who they're working on it. And so long as I know they are, it doesn't bother me. It's when they're outright not trying that I actually get upset.
Yeah.
Because so long as I know that you're working towards it, I can give you leeway. Now, if 5-6 years down the line you're still doing it, that's going to be an entirely different discussion. I've given you 6 years to acclimate to this. At that point in time, you're just outright not trying, and you're trying to make it seem like you are. That's a way different discussion. But,
So is
I'm
3 years
willing
the
to...
cutoff? I'm kidding.
Look, don't make me go get the Switch.
So Mario Kart, right?
Exactly.
No, I get it.
Or Pokemon.
I'd rather do Mario Kart. I'd kick your butt in that one.
Okay, I'll let you try. Or Dr. Mario. There you go.
Oh man, that's been ages.
Oh yeah, I remember Dr. Mario. But I mean, people just don't seem to. I am glad that mental health is something that's more discussed and people are becoming more accepting of it and not using it as a label anymore. But it
Yeah,
still is extremely prevalent.
it is.
And that's why having open forum discussions like this, I don't mind joining in on because it doesn't define who you are. It defines an aspect of who you are, but it's
Yeah,
not
just a
who
small
you
facet
are.
of that gem.
Yeah, that's why I said it's an aspect, but it's no different of an aspect than, you have anger issues. It's no different. Or, you're one of those people who, talk like a sailor. That it's one of those things that it's no different than any small little things like that. Or someone who uses the word literally all the time. It's no different.
Or talking with your hands. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a different.
it's a part of who you are, but it's not who you are.
Mm-hmm. Again, I really appreciate you joining in tonight and opening up and discussing at length about all of these things. It's wonderful to know that more people in our little group joining in are, mental health advocates and know the proper ways to educate themselves and how to tell others the proper ways to educate themselves and the different resources that we can use. It's awesome. And thank you again. And Squishy, thank you so much for your question, because this made a pretty good stream.
Mm-hmm. Squish gave us a good topic.
Yes, she
I'm
did.
very happy about that.
Me too, because I had no idea what I was going to talk about tonight.
I can keep asking questions.
Works for me. Just give me more than 20 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
Could you give me at least 24 hours next time, please?
Trust me, I have been so busy with so many things lately. I had a terrible nightmare. If you saw on the Discord server the details of it, and that wasn't even all the details. That was the generalized small version of it. And apparently, after reading all of the pieces and everything, I'm overbooking myself again, and I miss being able to do just what I love all the time, not just 5 minutes a day, where it's not satisfying at all. Jasper, don't you dare. This is wet. No. Back up.
But Mom.
There he is. No, these are wet. No, don't lean into them. Hello, Jasper.
But I want to be more colors.
No, he wants to be glazed.
Oh, well then.
You want to purr for everybody?
Yeah.
I heard a little bit.
Yeah. As your fur goes flying right to the eggs.
Of course.
He's a happy boy. Get the claws out of my neck. That's not where you need. That's not where biscuits go.
Meanwhile, back in the 80s, a new band has emerged to compete with The Cure. They call themselves The Prevention.
Okay, so
Cute.
I just saw ink that made me really happy.
Oh.
My ink.
Yeah, the puzzle box.
Yay.
The
Lament
Le Marchant.
Yeah.
configuration.
Oh, we are going to talk at length after this stream. With webcam. I'm going to show you my collection.
Okay. I mean, I have one that I bought so that way I could go and start using my avatar and everything, and I still have yet to set anything up, so there's that. So I do got to get a few things put up before any of that happens.
Yeah.
Like,
I have
the remainder of dinner.
Not just Cheez-Its at your feet?
No, I actually had a Firehouse sub. I only ate half of it.
Nice.
So.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and call this stream done. It was a little bit milder than some of our others, but it's probably because I didn't have anything to talk about the first half other than just reading stuff. Not a lot of people just like to get on here and hear people read. Well, some. Alrighty, well, I've got these eggs almost ready to pack up. I've got the glaze on the dinosaur egg because technically I can't really call it a Yoshi egg because I'm not part of Nintendo. But
it looks like a Yoshi egg.
It looks like one, but it's a dinosaur egg.
Okay.
And then I touched up the Dragon Panther Studios one, so it's going to be drying for the rest of the evening. I am going to swap over to the laptop later on and probably veg out to some Power Wash Simulator.
Nice.
All right, everybody. Thank you again so much for sharing. Thank you for joining. Thank you to all the people who were listening in and lurking about. It was wonderful to have you all to stay with us and listen and learn. So remember, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'll see you next time.